All right, today the topic we're talking about is business storytelling techniques. Now, storytelling is such a powerful way for you to communicate your message and have people remember it. So we're going to talk to an expert here, Rod, and Rod knows how to do this in a business sense so that people understand what your business is about. So join us. How is it we can do some amazing and sometimes unexplainable things, like heal our own bodies by the power of our thoughts? Mother's intuition, the law of attraction. Can we really tap into our subconscious mind? Can we really create our own realities? It begs the question, are we novice gods? All right, hey, thank you so much for joining us. I've got Rod McKenzie Jr. here, and we are talking about business storytelling techniques. Now, if you've paid attention to the things that you pay attention to, so often it's stories. You know, I mean, somebody can be blabbing along, and then all of a sudden they start into a story and your ears perk up and you're there. You're listening, especially if they're good storytellers. You just love to be in that moment, you know. Rod has figured out how to use these techniques into business settings so that businesses are able to communicate what they're about and what their message is. So I don't know if that's a good introduction or not,
you bet.
to what you do, but talk us through, you know, first of all, how important is business storytelling?
You know, storytelling increases the value of your goods and services tremendously. There was a company or a group that got together, and they're called Significant Objects. And you can go to their website and figure it out. I can't remember off the top of my head, but look up Significant Objects and you'll find it. They went out and they bought $128 and change worth of stuff at thrift stores. They took actual pictures and then created fictional stories around them, and some of them were pretty hilarious. And they put them up on eBay.
Okay.
They sold it for over $2,600 worth of, and so it's like a 2,600% increase. And so
simply because of the story associated with that object?
That's right.
Okay.
And also storytelling companies that are based on story, outperform a standard company by something like 1,400%. So revenue based on a company that has a belief, someone that you can communicate what you're doing in story form, it really makes a difference. Now, how that kind of works out is our brains are pretty amazing things. We can actually take in 11 million bits of information every second, but our conscious mind can only process 40. So that means 99.999% of all information that we process is done in our quote, subconscious mind, stuff that we don't think about at any given moment. So what happens is when we take in information, if someone gives us facts and figures, features and benefits, it's a bullet list. So our brain will take in that information and make sense of it what it wants to. So if, you know, I present to you 10 different facts and figures and features and benefits on a product, then I'm counting on your experience to put the story together. I'm counting on your experience to have you interpret that information the way that you want to. That's not very reliable because I have no opportunity to position and present from my point of view. So if I present it in a story, now we're activating 95%. Well, 95% of all decision making is made in the subconscious mind as well. These are all great facts and figures. And if you would like this, we'll give you my contact information and I can send you some links to some studies of all this information. But when you have all this information in your subconscious mind and I frame it in a story, it's very different. So for an example, if I'm going to give you some facts and figures, and you'll obviously be able to figure out what I'm saying, and then I'll tell you a story with the same thing, but just you can see how it positions it in your mind in the clarity. So facts and figures real quick. I walk through a rectangular object, I open it, and I walk to a different part, and I walk down a few steps, I look up, my face gets wet, and I feel cold, yet I feel good. That's a bulleted list of things that happen in a given event. Or I could say, I opened the door and I walked outside. I went down some steps and I looked up and the rain hit me in the face and I was cold yet refreshed. So that's a very simple story, but at the same time, I'm not giving you any facts and figures, but a rectangle object is a door. So when so many people describe their product, when so many people describe what they do, they figure out if I give them the right dimensions, the right features, the right benefits, then they're going to understand and it'll mean something to them. But if you tell them a story and tell them the same thing, but in a way that they can picture it in their mind, now you're communicating with visualization, pictures. You felt the cold rain on your face. You felt the nice little cold bit of weather, but you were refreshed. You pictured yourself walking out the door. So we were involved together. This is, a technique that they've discovered through a functional MRI, that when the speaker is saying something, the listener mimics it in their brain. So as I was telling the story about walking through the door, you were actually taking and picturing that same experience with you in that story. So when we do that, if your brain's firing the same way as mine, now we can relate on a much deeper level. So you can build trust, you can build everything by just telling a story.
Well, I'm interested in how to take storytelling to the business area with business techniques. I read a book years ago by Chip and Dan Heath. It's called Made to Stick. It's a phenomenal book. Basically, the book is about how to help people remember what you're presenting, what you want to talk about.
Right.
One of them, I think, teaches at Stanford. One of them teaches at Harvard. The one that teaches at Harvard would do this experiment every year with the students, where he would have them stand up and present for 3 minutes, or 3 minutes, I think, each person in the class on a given subject, and they had to have certain things in there. And it was kind of a stressful situation because they weren't given a lot of time before they presented. And anyway, so they would go through that, and then he would have them, okay, you did fantastic. We're going to just watch a Monty Python clip, take a little break, and everyone kind of thinks it's over, and they relax, and they're calm. And then after 10 minutes, he says, okay, now I want you to list everybody in the class, and I want you to list 3 concrete things that each person talked about. And these are bright Harvard people that know their stuff, right? And they couldn't do it. The ones the people that they could remember. Oh, and also one thing in the story is that he had everybody rate who gave the best presentation. And generally it went to the most eloquent person. But when it came down to having them remember it 10 minutes later and say, what do you remember from all these people? It was the people that told stories. And a lot of times these were people who English was not their first language, and they were horrible speakers, but they told a story, and that's what we remember. So how do you take storytelling, which I love and I believe in, how do you take that into a business setting to where you're able to really craft that around what you're presenting, what you're selling, and what your company is about?
So a lot of companies out there think that they're the hero. They want everybody to join them on their journey.
Okay.
And in all actuality, people don't care. People don't care about a company. They have absolutely no desire, even if it's a good purpose. And so what companies need to do is they need to treat their customers as the hero. So if you go back to the hero's journey, it's, back through Greek mythology. Joseph Campbell just, went through and made a book on this back in the 40s. He was one of the top mythologists, and he understood how to make this happen. I've converted that into a business scenario. So first you understand who your hero is. You got to really know who your customer is. And that's not just, what they might look like. You hear a lot about discovering your ideal customer. But you need to really figure out where your customer lives.
Okay.
Understand, do they live on social media? Do they live, and it's not like where they physically live, but where they spend their time and how to find them. So you really get a breakdown of entirely who they are, what kind of advertising works to them, and things of that. Then you go on to your next step, which is really understanding their pains. So I believe that you look at what your customers and your heroes need to escape from, the pains they need to escape from. And you always hear a lot about understanding customers' pains, but what does that really mean? When you help them escape from something, you're helping them leave a portion of their life and come to a point where they can really be effective and where they can be happy, because your whole goal is to transform your customers' lives, whether that be through a widget, a pet rock, or through a software product or through, a car. It doesn't matter. So you make a chart. You come up with first, list hundreds of different escape from points. And you'll end up coming up with, well, for one book that I wrote, I had 700 different escape from points that I addressed in the book. Combine those down into where you get your top 10 kind of categories of your pains. So I identify what they are. Then for each of your escape from pains, what do they want to arrive to? What does success mean for them? Or the point. And then how do they feel when they reach that success? Then once they reach that success, go back and determine what event caused all this and who their enemies are. So for example, if, let's take the example of women's shoes. Women love shoes. There's TV shows based around how much women love shoes. So take, for example, a quick story about a lady in mid-30s in an advertising agency in New York. And she looks at the screen and all of a sudden an event happens, which is a promotion opportunity in her office. And she looks down at her shoes and they're not very good. She feels like she likes them, but she looks over at her coworker who is also going to go up for the promotion, and she's gorgeous in her shoes. And so the event is the promotion. The escape from is low confidence and feeling of how she doesn't look good in her shoes. She wants to arrive to looking great in her shoes. And the feeling would be high confidence to where she can go into that interview and just knock it out. So we have her enemy, the associate in the office. So after she looks and sees the promotion come across her screen in the office, now she sees an ad for Nordstrom's. And she goes, Nordstrom has great shoes. So you see her then walking into Nordstrom's, getting a shoe fit on by an associate, and she walks out carrying the Nordstrom bag, and then you see her next walking into the office to go in for her interview, just feeling like she's on top of the world. So you take this few little things, and you can create a story that turns into a 15-second commercial that's worthy of Madison Avenue marketing. Anyone can do that. It doesn't take Madison Avenue to create a story like that. Anyone can do that. Now, your solution is custom for each pain and each different segment of heroes. Because every company is going to have multiple different heroes for their company, multiple different ideal customer segments. So you create your top 10 pains chart for each of your segments. And then you create your solution customly crafted for each of those pains to help your heroes escape and arrive to something and to transform. And then what makes you unique? This is really important. A lot of people, look at what really makes them different. Well, how do you know that? Well, you do a huge spreadsheet. Look at your competitors. Look at their marketing messages. Look at their features and benefits. Look at what they offer. And then come up with something that nobody else has. And then the key on making all this happen is how you position yourself. That's not in your mind to your customers, but how you want your customers to think of you. It's your ultimate strategic position. So when you start off knowing who your hero is, what their pains are, develop out your pain chart, know what your solution would be for that segment and that particular pain, what makes you unique, what gives you that unfair advantage, and then how you want your customers to see you or your positioning, that's the formula for your story.
Okay. So those are kind of some techniques to get people into business storytelling?
And it's something that anyone can do on their own. Anyone can sit down and figure out the pains and then just walk through that simple process. Then you can figure out what sales channels you need to go through, how to create your campaigns, whether it's television or social media, whatever it is, and know what to track and evaluate and constantly be progressing.
Very cool. And I'll give you just kind of a case in point, if you've heard. Anyway, so there's this guy, he's trying to find a pair of shoes, and he's walking down the mall, and he can't find what he wants, and he has in his mind what he wants, but it's not there, and he ends up going from store to store to store and gets frustrated. Then he has this idea, what if there is an online shoe store where you can just check anything out, you can order it, you could try it on, if you don't like it, you just send it back, And that's how Zappos was created. So if you think of storytelling, and you associate with that guy, oh, I've been there. I've been at the mall. I just wanted to get some Birkenstocks, and they didn't have Birks, but they had all these other ones. I knew exactly what I wanted. That's how Zappos started. So whatever business that you are in, whatever you're trying to create or working on, just understand when you craft it into a story, you can make it into something everyone will remember. So I hope that helps you. I hope that gives you some ideas for how to add business storytelling into what you're doing. And thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks. And you can catch me at Rod at storycoaching.co or my website, storycoaching.co.
There you go. Thank you very much for joining us. What do you think? You've heard our thoughts. Now let's hear yours. In the comment section below, share what impressions came to your mind. What did you get out of this? If you have had thoughts to take action, please do so. Always listen to your inner voice. It's your ultimate guidance system. Of course, the best place to take action is at scottwilhite.com, because if you join me for a free web class, I will reward you by sending you my purpose planner so you can have a physical guide to help you get in touch with your inner guide. What if you are a God in the making? That would mean there's purpose to your life, meaning to your challenges. You have a great work to do. May you have the courage, faith, and power to become who you were truly meant to be. See you next time.